Ukrainian representatives say that 40 million people should fight, as Putin prepares for a very long-term war. At the same time, Russians decided that they want to retake Kherson back, and unfortunately, they were able to re-enter in one key city in the south. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Oh! So, today we are in the Christmas and the New Year mood, right? So today one of local authorities of one small Russian town, they decided to give a present to their citizens, to their residents, and they installed these life-size figures of, we call them Ded Moroz and Snegurочка, basically the Father Christmas or Santa Claus, and allegedly his daughter. And I mean, the construction itself is already very unsettling enough, but did you know that they also have, for some reason, glowing eyes in the dark? To make it even more spooky, pretty much the perfect representation of the Christmas cheer mood for some of the Russian people. And if you're not going to like this video and subscribe to my channel, this Father Christmas and his daughter Snegurочка will come for you. And no, they are not gonna give you a bag of coal or anything like this. No, they're not gonna give you anything. They are gonna take your soul. So if you want to be safe, just once again, simple thing, subscribe to my channel, please. And so yes, okay, so now let me give you a very quick update from the east, where Ukrainians were able to establish a new record in how fast they can destroy Russian military vehicles. And then we're gonna go to the south, where unfortunately some bad things happened, and we will finalize everything with Putin deciding to turn this into a very long-term war. And first of all, right here is the video from Sinkivka, located in Kupiansk front line, where Ukrainians were able to destroy a lot of Russian military vehicles, along with the advancing infantry. And guess what? Even Russians themselves acknowledged the powerful assault by Ukrainians. They mentioned that Ukrainians were able to destroy 2 tanks and 2 infantry fighting vehicles in under 35 seconds. Which is one of the fastest eliminations since the beginning of this war. But wait, it is not over, because Russians continued their attempts to attack Sinkivka, and they lost 2 more armored vehicles, bringing the total losses to 6 with absolutely no results. Our next stop brings us a little bit to the south, to the forest of Kreminna, where right here is yet another documentary about the combat activities in this area by Ukrainians fighting there, and yes, it also does have English subtitles. I will upload this full documentary on my Patreon completely for free for you guys to see. The link is down below. As we go even more down to Nikolsk, located in Donetsk region, right here is the video of Ukrainians successfully destroying an anti-tank missile complex called Sturm S. And then in already familiar to you guys Avdiivka, Russians were trying to create another one, assault, so they were pretty much loading their military equipment and obviously infantry inside their armored personnel carriers. And then Ukrainians, they took this situation, took the advantage of this situation, while they were still opening doors inside these armored personnel carriers, and they skillfully flew the drones inside, causing a very big ball of fire. And well, speaking about Avdiivka, I mean, you already know about these mid assaults that Russians are doing pretty much every single day. Well, right here is the interview, let's call it like this, with one of captured Russian soldiers, who actually says that the situation is much worse. He does acknowledge that the officers and generals, they send the people inside Avdiivka assaults with no regards to human life whatsoever, but besides them being sent in the open fields without no protection, no military vehicles, and sometimes without even proper ammunition, their officers, they say, if you do not go if you do not assault Ukrainian positions, we will just eliminate you ourselves. So the choice for the Russian soldiers fighting in Avdiivka frontline is pretty much either between 100% elimination and 95% elimination. Nothing much to choose from. Okay, now let's briefly similarly talk about the situation in the south of Ukraine, where unfortunately the news are not that good. But first of all, this last day, the previous day, a civilian ship under Panama flag, it caught a Russian sea mine in the Black Sea area. The ship did not sink, it only suffered minor to regular medium damages and is able to still stay afloat. Next we have a video allegedly from Zaporozhye area, where a Russian soldier is testing his improvised and almost self-created anti-drone gun against a Ukrainian drone, and you will be pretty much able to see that this test did not end successfully. It was a complete failure, to say the least. And speaking about the drones, luckily Russians did not attack the territory of Ukraine last night that much, and Ukrainians still were able to intercept 7 out of 8 Russian Shahed drones. But what is even more extraordinary is that according to this video reportedly, there are only 4 representatives of a Ukrainian 8th Battalion of 10th Brigade, and just 4 of them were able to fully repel the assault by Russians. The full and most importantly uncensored version of this repel by Ukrainians, not even repel but heroic actions by Ukrainian soldiers, as always will be able to be found on my Patreon. The link is down below, and every single one of you guys can try this service for yourself. There is 1 week of free trial to see if you like it or not. Also, Patreon members provide the biggest support for my channel, so thank you so much. As we go back to the south, Ukrainians then were also able to destroy an assault group of Russians and also their armored vehicle to the south of Krinky. And just overall speaking about Kherson region, according to its Russian head, the infiltrator, the collaborator Vladimir Saldo, he is mentioning that Russians, they want to take Kherson back from Ukrainians. One good thing is that he said it back in November, and since then Russians were quite unsuccessful. But unfortunately, already according to more serious sources, such as for example British intelligence report, they do see some kind of an activity on the southern part of Kherson region across Dnipro River, specifically Russian Airborne Division, VDV, 104th Airborne Division. They are starting to assemble their forces, maybe not for an immediate attack, but for some attacks in the future. In the worst case scenario, right there they're assembling to defend against Ukrainians. And then, already according to the General Staff of Ukraine, there are small groups of Russians trying to advance and attack positions of Ukrainians next to Dnipro River in Kherson region, obviously. But so far none of these attacks they end in any sort of success, such as for example in the last 24 hours Ukrainians were relatively able to repel 13 of such assaults. But unfortunately there are not so good news from Zaporozhye. Specifically, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians were able to recapture some positions in Robotyne, Verbove, Novoprokopivka frontline, as you can see right here, and were able to get some foothold, getting closer to Ukrainians. And reportedly, Ukrainians had to withdraw to more strategic positions for the upcoming winter, so it will be a little bit easier for them to defend in case Russians decide to advance. And so, as a result of all this, as you can see, there is obviously, undeniably right now, a pretty big stalemate across Ukrainian front lines, with neither of the countries advancing significantly. And Putin recently, in the meeting with the head of China, Xi Jinping, he mentioned that he is ready for a long-term war, something like 5+ years. So maybe this is exactly what we're seeing right now, with the Russians getting closer to the front lines, bringing new divisions, brigades and battalions. And at the same time you do not see them actively engaging in combat activities. So that once again they're just getting closer, assembling the power, bringing reinforcements, resupplying themselves, waiting most likely for the end of the winter to launch their attempt of the offensive. Which just once again is yet another confirmation that there should be no peace negotiations with Putin at all, because you can simply never trust him. He will say, yes, let's do a ceasefire, and this is exactly what he is going to do during momentarily stop of combat activities. He will try to resupply and regain power. And at the same time, unfortunately, there are also very big mobilization problems in Ukraine. And I have been speaking with my Ukrainian uncle and my Ukrainian cousin. They blame, not just they, but a lot of Ukrainians, they blame the local and just general authorities, because the corruption is again increasing to such significant levels. The levels that they were not expecting, which are possible during war. Because the soldiers are protecting their own country, they are protecting the families of the very same local authorities. So it is absolutely unbelievable how you can steal money from the ones who protect you. But this is what is happening. And also, obviously, you can be patriotic as much as you want, but going to the war is a very different thing. Not too many people, neither in Ukraine nor in Russia, are willing to sacrifice their lives. Let's be honest here, it is truly scary to be in combat activities. But on the other hand, Ukrainian authorities, they continue to push for a wider mobilization, such as, for example, the head of Mykolaiv region, Vitaly Kim. He's saying that this proposed mobilization of 500,000 Ukrainians might not be enough to fully repel the aggression by Russia and retake back territories. He is saying that the entire Ukraine must fight, entire 40 million people of it. And it is not just men, it is also women, elder people, and potentially even kids behind the front lines. Obviously not with the weapons in the trenches, but on the factories, educating their friends, increasing the levels of patriotism and just sense of a common goal. And just once again, right here, I'm only referring to the words and quotes mentioned by the Ukrainian authorities. So guys, I'm really curious to hear what do you think. Please let me know down below in the comments. And as always, thank you so much, patrons, for your support, and see you tomorrow.